Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play cast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka magicman. This is episode 188, creeping ever closer to the 200th episode, but 188 for now, 188. We've got news, we've got games, we've got DeBombs, and we've got your feedback. So let's get started by introducing the host, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you?
I'm doing really good, and I've got big news. World of Warcraft has gone free to play.
Wait, what?
Oh wait, no, that was just Riders Vickers we played yesterday. Well, it seemed like the same thing. So.
Oh boy, oh boy. It starts already. Also on the line, Miss Quinlan
started in the
Bowers.
pre-show.
Q, how are you?
I might be good. We'll see by the end of the show if my internet lasts.
The internet connection seems more stable. You don't seem as pixelated. These are good things.
She must have shaved. She doesn't look very fuzzy anymore.
These are good things. All right, let's get started with the news. Totally not talking about any shaving any of you do on this show.
I just shaved like an hour ago.
All right, let's get started here with lots of small news this week. There were a couple things, we'll talk about those in a bit, but a lot of really small, interesting news, so we're going to bring it back. Here it is, the rapid fire round. I'll give you guys and gals the topic. You tell me your thoughts. I'll tell you mine. Sound fair? Sound fair? All right, let's get started. So, apparently, Turbine isn't all about maintenance mode and mobile gaming. And while the future for Lord of the Rings Online, as we talked about last week, may not be all that positive, Jason, it seemed to be a little more positive on the Dungeons & Dragons Online side this week, surprisingly.
Yeah, their executive producer, Robert Ciccolini?
I think that's about
Ciccolini. He goes by Severlin on the forums, so we'll just go with that. Severlin said on the forums, quote, "We are planning out the future of DDO in years and discussing the possibility of an expansion near the end of 2017. Cool things are coming." Of course, every executive producer is going to say there's cool things coming, things and stuff, and it'll be soon and whatever. But, to basically announce that they're, looking at maybe doing another expansion, around the end of next year, which makes you think that they're going to go a while beyond that. They even said that in the producer's letter, like, and he says right there too, we're planning it out in the future in years. So they've still got some time on this game. They're not looking to fold it or anything like that within the next year or two, like we sort of think with Lotro. So, I mean, that's a nice sign to see that they really are committed to having this game go on for quite a while. It's an older game now. It's celebrated its 10th anniversary. So to be planning well beyond that is probably a really nice thing for DDO fans to have that kind of security.
When was the last DDO expansion?
Didn't they just have the one single expansion? It was like 2 years ago or something. Remember, they didn't have an expansion for like 7 or 8 years, 9 years, whatever it was. So they don't really do an actual expansion very often.
Yeah, I remember the Shadowfell one, the Shadowfell conspiracy thing.
But I said they have updates. They have frequent updates, but they had a big thing they called an expansion once, and I'm struggling to remember exactly when that was.
Menace of the Underdark was another big one that I remember covering, but
sure.
I don't have any more than that. Q, do you?
Oh God, you're asking me to remember when things happened?
But yeah, it looks like Shadowfell Conspiracy was the expansion, the full expansion. It's still on sale. You can still buy it for $50, or standard edition for $30, collectors for $50.
Yeah, I would say that's expansion prices for something that's been out for a while.
And when was Shadowfell? Let's look that up.
It's not saying here on the site. DDO
Let's
Wiki.
look that
Come
up.
on, DDO Wiki. August 19th, 2013.
So it's been a while.
That was the second expansion, it says.
Yes,
Okay, so maybe there wasn't one before that.
Okay, so I thought Menace of the Underdark was an expansion. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's one of those, DLC jobs where you get the extra stuff in a particular update. But I seem to remember Menace of the Underdark and Shadowfell Conspiracy. And if Shadowfell Conspiracy, a full expansion, was 3 years ago now, it's kind of surprising to hear, hey, by the way, end of next year, possible expansion. And to me, Q, yeah, I think the only thing that's possible about this is the date, right? You don't say we have an expansion in the works if you don't have an expansion in the works. It's just the date that is...
especially the way they worded this, too, where there's going to be stuff. They've got it figured out year by year, so they would have to know whether or not... If they've got it figured out year by year, and 2017 is only next year, then wouldn't they know that already?
Yeah, that's my thing, Jason. You don't really discuss the possibility of an expansion for next year.
Yeah,
You know?
unless you really have something solid on the calendar.
Right. You know, maybe I think what is more apt to have happened there is we're doing an expansion. It might be next year. We might need a little bit longer. You know, that's the way
Well,
I kind
near
of
the end of 2017 could include early 2018 because that would still be near the end of 17.
It would. December, January.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, sure, why not? I was honestly surprised. The last thing we read like gave a very maintenance mode indication, and while I would have considered small updates, you know, a la Final Fantasy XI, the way they did things rolling up to the console shutdowns and the PC maintenance modes, okay, fine, little updates here and there, but when you start talking expansion, I mean, how does this game talk expansion, but the previous press release was like, no, we're going mobile. We're going mobile.
I don't know. I'm with you, man. I'm kind of surprised by it, too.
Yeah, very bizarre. Very bizarre. But hey, DDO fans, awesome. If you were surprised by it, here you go. On the other rapid fires, and this one, we'll go to Jason for you. Guild Wars 2, what's going on? Living story details and trailers and stuff.
Yep, the Season 3 of Living Story, or Living World, whatever. I always get confused which one it is, but whatever. But yeah, it's actually going to start next week. They finally decided they're going to actually get off their asses and make some more PvE content in the open world. And yeah, so they're going to actually start that up. They did a little trailer, which actually revealed a few kind of interesting little tidbits. Give you a decent preview of the sort of stuff that's going to come, maybe, sort of, kind of. And yeah, then they're also going to have 50% off on the Heart of Thorns expansion, which you need to access this content. Now that starts today on Wednesday, and they didn't give an idea of how long it lasts. I would guess at least until that goes live on Tuesday. So if you want to get into it and you haven't purchased Heart of Thorns yet, now would be the best time to do it. It'd be $25, I think, for the base edition, and up to $50 for the deluxe ones. You already have it, so you're going to jump right in.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Is this exciting for Guild Wars peoples?
It is, because, like I said, the only content updates they've done since Heart of Thorns launched back in October are the raid wings, which, if you're not into raiding, means you've had absolutely nothing to do. So it's a big deal. The problem is, it almost has to be a spectacular thing, because otherwise it's just going to get shit on. Because again, it's going to be the only thing we're going to have. They say they're going to go with, like, I think, quarterly updates like this. They want to get into a nice regular schedule. And the thing is, if this doesn't do really well, then we have another 3 months to wait before we get to the next thing. So it could be, it's going to succeed fabulously or just blow up completely, is how I feel it's going to go.
Do you have a prediction sure to go wrong?
I give it about 60-40 that it's going to be good. That's going to satisfy people.
And Q, you look thrilled to be talking Guild Wars. Alright, so we'll give this one to you, Q. Yeah, the Guild Wars stuff, I don't... The living story stuff has never really done it for me. I just don't like that missing out on content if I'm not playing for a little while. And then I know they put the stuff in where you can go back and experience some of it, but I don't dig it. I don't dig the content delivery method. How's it different from... It's content delivery. They're giving you content. You can do it forever. How's that different from adding a new dungeon? Right, but you couldn't do it forever initially. That was the point. Well, that was 3 years ago. That's why they changed it. And so it just got me... Stop complaining about it. It got me turned off, and I never got turned back on. Oh, yeah, that is their problem. A lot of people have been turned off by the content gap already, and I don't know how many of them are coming back. So. Right, and we also have the posts go back and forth over the last 6 months on, well, there's a content drought, so let's focus on that. Instead of these weapons, and then nothing. They didn't focus on either of them as far as fans were concerned with the release schedule. All right, moving on. Wizardry closing in Japan, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that means you probably live in Europe or North America, where the game lasted like a year and a half. A more hardcore style MMO, kind of take a Dark Souls and mix it in with an MMO. You kind of got the idea. Q, you were actually, I think, interested in this game back in the Game Breaker days. We didn't play it very long, but what's the whole deal as far as closing in Japan now. I think this spells the end of the game across the board, doesn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. And I think the reason we didn't play it long in the Game Breaker days is because I had no one else to play it with. I'm pretty sure Gary dropped out of it like really quickly. Which is hilarious because it was like a more hardcore, game, and they added the permadeath and stuff like that. And I think it just comes down to, at this point, the whole thing of people say they want more hardcore games, but they really don't.
Like Jason's, people say they want to level, but they don't really want to level.
They want to level. They just don't understand that 6 months later, the new people can't come in and play with them. So.
Oh, come on. I'm kind of sad to see this one go, and all the comments on this story were pretty much, oh, that really sucks. I enjoyed this game. I like the idea of a more hardcore thing. Is there still an audience for that? I mean, we hear it all the time on all of these stories, guys, that people want a more hardcore thing. And I think WildStar heard that, but also heard we want like it was back then, and went off in a bit of an odd, incorrect direction. But staying away from hardcore being defined by excessive grinding, hardcore attunements, 40-person raids, do you think there is a market out there, guys, for like a more difficult and challenging MMO that really tests the player's skill and the ability to learn the systems?
I don't think there's really a great market there for an MMO of that kind, because then you need everyone to be on that same page. Your whole 10-man or 20-man or 40-man raid or whatever, you have one or two guys who aren't the gonna play 12 hours a day guy. They can't cut it. And they don't get in there, and then you have to try to find people to replace them. You have to hope. It's just, I just don't think that can work in a multiplayer environment all that well. Single-player games like Dark Souls, that sort of thing, you play at your own pace, whatever. Sure, go ahead. But trying to get enough people together to do that sort of thing in MMO, I think, is virtually impossible.
The thing is, too, is there is a reason why MOBAs are overtaking MMOs.
Well, then that kind of leads to my question that I was going to ask you then, Q, is what if the approach was different, Jason? What if the PvE aspect of things wasn't so raid-intensive or big group-intensive? What if it was more something that was hardcore, difficult, challenging, based around, like, your typical Dungeons & Dragons tabletop game with you and 3 or 4 of your friends? What if it was an MMO, had all those elements, but the focus was more on the dungeon size stuff and not maybe big, expansive, difficult raid type stuff? Take that MOBA 5-person formula and make something a little more hardcore PvE MMORPG.
Well, the other benefit of MOBAs, though, is that you hop in, you play a match, you get out. Like, that's part of the other reason why they're overtaking, because if you are a raider or you're running dungeons or anything like that and you're wanting to do it kind of remotely seriously, then you're spending hours doing it. Like, it's there's a lot of work that goes into doing that, and I think it's just, I mean, I even, back when Camelot Unchained was being funded, I backed it. Not that I think I'll ever see it at this point, but I backed it because it was, like a more hardcore, like they were angling for the more hardcore audience. But when I really stop and think about it, it's like, I don't really have time for that.
And yeah, I think even a smaller size thing like Dungeons could still run into that whole, a lot of the toxicity of if this one guy over here, if the one tank isn't pulling his weight or the DPS isn't doing enough, you're still going to have a lot of the trouble I think you get with, if that's the only way you can play, if those people don't have any other choice other than to play the super hardcore, dungeon experience. And we see the same thing. We see that in MOBAs. One person doesn't pull his weight and everyone just piles on him, or same in a shooter or like Overwatch, something like that. I still think it can be an issue in a multiplayer environment like that if that is the only option.
I don't know. I think a compromise could be reached. I don't know how
you go ahead
entertaining
and you fund that. You go right ahead.
I'm going to create it. I'm going to grab 5 MMO bombers and we're going to build it in my basement. Speaking of things that are just flying out of basements, SWTOR's next expansion just around the... That was a terrible segue. Or a very derogatory one, at least towards BioWare.
It was a little mean, but...
Yeah, I just don't get... I mean, the expansions just keep flying. So SWTOR's next expansion already just around the corner, Jason.
Yeah, Knights of the Eternal Throne coming this fall. And it's like, they call it an expansion, but I'm not sure if it's going to be an actual expansion or if it's going to be like the episodic stuff they've been doing.
Yeah.
Which I've sometimes heard referred to as an expansion. But it does seem like maybe it continues the story of the Knights of the Fallen Empire. So definitely should be interesting. I've heard pretty good things about that storyline and all that stuff going on. So pretty good stuff if you like that and want to keep doing it.
I didn't dig it. The whole episodic thing. It didn't do it for me. I enjoyed it when it first launched, and I had like what was it, 10 chapters or 9 chapters to go through to get to the new max level and all that fun stuff. But then I did not dig this one episode every X months episodic release. You know what it felt like? It felt like the Living Story bullshit. These little tiny pieces of content that I'm waiting a month or so to get, and it really didn't do it for me. I like the expansions to be, boom, if you want to give me an update and put a little, here's an extra story quest or two or whatever, or moving this story arc along queue, great, all for it. But when you put the word expansion in there, I expect kaboom content. Throw some shit down for me to do. Maybe it's just me and the old definition of expansion.
Well, I mean, basically it's just a content update if it's not like a full-blown raising your level, adding several areas or dungeons or whatever. It's a content update. You're adding a few pieces of content.
Yeah, I assume we're gonna have the old standby, subs get this ahead of time and weird access restricting based on who's a sub and who's not, just like we've had previously. Yes,
probably. It's interesting you bring that up though, mentioning the little regular content updates versus the larger big drops, because that's what I just wrote that article about DCUO this month or today. Now they're changing that as well. They were going with monthly updates, and they're going to go to every 3 months or so larger updates. And that's apparently that sounds like what Guild Wars 2 is doing too with their quarterly things.
Yeah,
so.
and DCUO teased that. We talked about it on a free-to-play cast maybe a month ago. They teased that whole idea of doing that, and I don't know. I think it's
that's got to be a question of the week sometime.
Yeah, we did Riders of Icarus. We did the community stream yesterday. And the way that's being released in the West is kind of bizarre. I mean, it's already level 60 and stuff in Korea, and we've got the first 25 levels. We're getting an update later this month, which Q will be posting an article later today on, of some of the content that's in there expected by the end of July. And they're raising the level cap by little bits. It almost seems like they localized a bit of it. Now they're localizing this, and they wanted to release it earlier. I don't like it. Just give me the content, and if I gotta wait 5 months for a big content update or a year for an expansion, as long as I know that, I'll budget my time and money accordingly. I'll play Jason's game for 2 months, and then I'll pretty much be capped out, so I'll go play Q's game for 2 or 3 months, and then I'll come back just in time for Jason's big update or expansion pack. I don't like these, it almost feels like we're stringing you along with just as much content as it takes for you to keep the sub, Jason. Yeah, I don't like that feeling. I also don't like
Guild Wars 2 doesn't have a sub.
What's that?
Guild Wars 2 doesn't have a sub.
That's true. I also don't like the feeling that Star Wars gives me much anymore, in that it is really a single-player game at this point.
Yeah.
With some MMO elements thrown in for dungeons and raids and PvP and things like that. But it really is becoming very heavily a single player, and, go do KOTOR 3. Speaking of expansions, this one very near and dear to my heart. I don't play this game at all anymore, but
it's near and dear
I
to
have
me.
fond memories of this game, of Ion. The expansion pack went live, 5.0 went live in North America, Q. This is a game that you used to play in the day, too. However, not available in Europe yet, so if you are across the seas, you'll have a little bit of a wait on this one. Not being all that well received, according to forums and even posts on our own page.
Yeah, I'm not honestly sure on how well received it is. I do know we've been actually trying to get back into Ion, but they did some update or something, I don't know, like a month or so ago, and for everyone I know, you couldn't download it. Like, there was just all these weird issues with it even trying to download. We thought it was just us at first, and then I was talking to some people at Game Scanning, and it was like, oh no, I couldn't download it either. So they downloaded it today, and we're working on getting it downloaded so we can get back in the game and check it out. We got a little guild going over there and everything.
Oh no, you roboted! You roboted! Alright, you're back to normal again. Kind of. Yeah, Grimsbane on our website said the expansion seems to be quite the disappointment. NCSoft, as usual, did not listen to its player base, and they messed up with 4.8, and did not put enough quests or XP gains in the game to make it a fun ride to max level. 5.0 just added gear that in some circumstances isn't even better than the old gear, grind hell, and much more. Very little quests, silly and pointless quests. They say kill 40 to 60 of something. Holy shit. Yet the XP being so very little. Big A-bomb to NCSoft on this one. If they'd listen to their player base, they may actually get more people to play their game. And then somebody chimed in on that and said, I completely agree, and went into even more detail, of course, bringing in Gameforge on the EU side of things being a thorn in players' sides as well. But it's sad to see that type of feedback, because Ion does have a special place in my heart. A special place, Jason. You hated that from day one, I bet.
No, it took like 3 or 4 days, I think, for me to hate it. Yeah, I'm amazed to see that there are leveling gaps in Aeon. I mean, really? That was one of the biggest complaints when it first came out, like 6 years ago, and there wasn't enough stuff to do to get to levels without massive grinding. So.
Yeah, but what's funny is still having those issues after they implemented the fast track server that you could jump to for the experience bonus, leveling up alts or leveling up a new character. I mean, it's like they did a lot of things, but apparently in the expansions they just keep compounding an old problem. If you're an Ion player, let us know what you think in the comments below on the expansion there. We're getting a lot of feedback that it's just not great, and that makes me sad in my heart. Moving on. I have mixed emotions about this one. We talked about this, the three of us, quite at length, actually, in the old Skype chat while we were writing it. So WildStar released its update that put in their character max boost bad boy, which we knew was coming and we knew was going to cost like 50 bucks, whatever. So they no big deals there. Everybody knew what they were getting. As also part of that update, though, the new races and class combinations were added, introducing the Chua Warrior and the RN Engineer. Correct? Do I have that right, or did I get it back?
No, that's right.
I got it. Okay, I got it. Got them right. Perfect. The Chua Warrior and the RN Engineer. What's really odd about this one for me is that they're charging for that. And at first, Jason, Hugh, I kind of had the attitude of, well, okay, fine, you know, when Star Wars The Old Republic adds a new race, that's a cash shop item, you know? A new player can use all these races, and if you want one of these special races, give us a couple of bucks, you can create characters of that race. So, okay, that's not all that odd. Let's go see how much it was. So I went in. It's $12.50 USD just to unlock one of those combinations. So 25 bucks if you want both combinations to be able to create them on your account. And what really struck me as odd is, A, all of these races and classes already exist. It's not like they added something new to the game and are saying, hey, if you want our new shiny sexy, give us a couple of bucks. These are already races and classes that both existed. They just put them together in a different combination. The other portion of that is, I didn't see anything, and I reached out to the Twitterverse saying, help me, did I miss something? Boy, I'm getting a severe shadow off the light today. I really got to put up. I keep forgetting to do that, really. But I'm not wearing a white shirt today, so that should help. Reached out to the Twitterverse to find out, did anybody know that these were going to be sold? Because everything I saw gave an indication of, we're just going to add these to the game. And it kind of surprised me that out of nowhere these were for money, Jason. How did you feel about this whole thing here? Or do you just not care?
Well, yeah, it did strike me as, I agree, a little odd, a little grasping maybe, to put it away. But I had sort of the same thought as you. Like, I was thinking of like Lord of the Rings Online, whenever they added a new class, they charged for it, which I think only like $10 too. So it's even cheaper to play a whole new class in Lotro than it is to use existing combinations in WildStar, which I have a bit of an issue with it, but maybe not that much because of that that experience playing games like Lotro. But yeah, it still seems like it could have at least been a little less than what they're charging.
To be fair, you can farm Omnibits in-game for it, a stunning 495 Omnibits queue, so that's going to take you a little while. How did you feel? Because you actually had to dig through the posts as we were talking. What did you see? What were your feelings?
I mean, it's one of those things. I'm one of those people that I'm totally cool with paying for cosmetics and mounts and pets and, you know, things like that. I'm not going to pay you for a class or a race. I'm sorry. I'm just not. Like, that's one of those things that I always feel like should just be part of the next expansion. I'll pay you for the expansion. I'm not paying you for a race by itself.
Yeah, and this one for me, Jason, like, obviously, so people complained on our site and on forums and stuff, and then there was the usual predictable chime in of, you know, you just don't want to spend money or you're broke or whatever. And to me, on this one, that argument doesn't apply. I don't have any problem giving you money for stuff. It was just really bizarre to me that it wasn't advertised ahead of time as, or even talked about as, we're probably going to charge for this. We just don't know how much, like they did with the boost. And then the price point itself for something that's already in the game on both fronts, that just struck me as a bit odd.
Yeah,
across the board.
Yeah, probably the fact that it was not announced beforehand and got people hyped up about it, and then they sprung a price tag on. That's probably what's got people ticked off as much as anything.
Very bizarre. Very bizarre. I think it's kind of a silly decision for a game that just launched on Steam and is trying to use that momentum to kind of rebound a little bit, to make this big deal about all those Dev Connects queue, and what do you guys want? Our players, you know, the people that are actually in the game, what do you guys want? And then, okay, we'll give it to you, but you're going to have to give us a couple of bucks with no warning. I think players would have appreciated, hey, if you build these, are they going to cost us? You know what? Then don't even build it. We'd rather have some content at that point. I don't know how the player base would have felt. It just reeked of really bizarre. Q?
Yeah, no, like, like I said, it's just, I think, yeah, the Dev Connect thing, it was kind of one of those. I'm pretty sure nobody sat down in the Dev Connect and went, we want this, but we want to pay you for it.
Yeah, and the issue isn't paying them for it. I mean, it is work, and it's a business. They have to make money, and they really, really need to make money. But it just seemed the wrong time for this. It just really seemed like we need money so bad that we have to charge for this if you actually want it. And I understand the dire situation that WildStar is in and can appreciate doing everything you can. Yeah, it really reeked of almost sneaky and weird to me. And I don't think they were intentionally hiding anything, but just a bizarre thing. My mixed emotions, I don't think they're mixed anymore. I think I lean a little more towards terrible idea. Put a new class in there. Fine. I'll pay you for the new class. I'm not like you. If I want to check out that class, I'll give you $5-10 to check out a class. If I want that race in Star Wars The Old Republic, I pay for that race. I think I've bought like 2 or 3 over the years, Jason. So it's not an issue of paying you. It's, what am I paying you for? Oh, I'm paying you to basically have a different skin on a class I already have, or a different class on a race that I already have. So I'm not really getting anything new except a visual difference. And $12.50 to do it for each? That's steep.
But dude, it's just cosmetics. They can charge anything for cosmetics. It's not pay to win.
All right, real quick, let's do some mini reviews. I'm going to do mine first. I did Street Warriors Online, first look this week. Beat 'em up from Crazy Rocks Studios. Somebody on YouTube asked if I did a sponsored post because I was pretty gentle on the game. The game didn't take itself seriously, so I didn't take the game seriously. Yeah, the graphics are awful. The controls are floaty. I could have torn the game apart, but it's a mindless, go in there, beat 'em up game. Just swing your fists and feet and kick and punch anything that moves. it's not going to captivate you for a long time, but maybe it's worth jumping into now and then and playing with your friends. The sound effects are good. The music is really good. They did a really, really good job on the music. That's probably what they did the best on, in my opinion. But no, it wasn't a fucking sponsored post. Get the hell out of here.
You know,
I wasn't that nice to them.
Yeah, as I watched your video, I thought, man, it's a nice concept. I like the idea of a street fighting beat 'em up. But I wish they just had better combat. I just wish it looked better and played better.
Yeah, it's not smooth at all.
What I really wished was if they could have just grabbed Triad Wars and grabbed the combat from that and stuck it in here. That would have been great.
Q, what'd you think?
I mean, it looked like maybe something that would be fun to play for a brief period of time, but oh my god, was it ugly.
Oh yeah, it was ugly. It was. And it doesn't have a huge player base. Apparently I said in the first look, and I didn't even realize this, I said it doesn't have a big player base yet, because in my mind, I'm talking about a game that's in early access, and so it has a small player base, and in early access, presumably at launch, it would have a bigger player base. But I didn't realize that how that could sound is like, oh, it's going to have a big player base. It just doesn't have a big player base yet. It's going to get there. Totally not the inflection that I meant on the word yet. You did Fallout Shelter, the hit mobile title, Jason, that has now come over to the PC. And basically, when I watched it, it looked like exactly what I expected it to look like.
Yeah, it looked exactly like the mobile game. Like what?
Like Fallout Shelter? It looked exactly like Fallout Shelter.
Go figure. Yeah, I mean, I never played the mobile version, but I always heard such good things about it, even from, like I said, from people who were not into mobile games and, you know, timers and that sort of thing. I've played around with it still a few days afterwards. Have not managed to get anybody killed, any of you people at least.
Zach and I had an adventure.
Yeah, you and Zach Zach is rocking that pool cue. He's still got it, and he is just kicking ass with it. Yeah, he is. Yeah, but for the most part, you guys work in the power plant.
Of course.
You know, you got knobs to turn and stuff like that. So, yeah, you're keeping everybody with power. And yeah, I really like the little adventures, like little dungeon things they send you off on. That's new in the recent update, which came out alongside the PC version. So yeah, I mean, it's free. It's a fun thing to just goof around with every now and then. So I totally recommend it.
Yeah, this one I kind of chalk up to if you were interested enough to look at it on your phone, you'll probably enjoy it on PC too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really that simple for me. Let's slide over and get started with the weekly bombs. Q, you're up.
Oh, well, I'm going to give an A-bomb to the cat for making this a really uncomfortable stream.
Aw, Domino.
Poor kitty.
Jason.
I'm going to give a dub-bomb to Kroger, the grocery store chain that's nearby and probably in other parts of the country as well. I've been having some bad customer service experiences with a number of different companies lately. So I was reminded of how I've had good customer service with Kroger the past couple times I've gone there. Been overcharged something at the register, go straight to their customer service. They take it off completely, give me a refund. I get my free beef or whatever, head out with it. So dub-bomb to Kroger for good customer service.
I think that might be the first ever weekly bomb for a grocery store.
Hey.
So congratulations, Kroger. I'm going to give a dub bomb to the MMOBomb community who came out and partied with us yesterday for a few hours playing Riders of Icarus. We all partied up and had 2 parties going, and those people hanging out in Twitch that made us laugh. It was a good time. Check it out. We'll be doing another one in about a month here, so check it out on the website for what game and when and all those details. But a dub bomb to the MMOBomb community for a good time yesterday. From the viewers, Zamoro says, by looking at this Lord of the Rings picture, he's talking about the free-to-play cast thumbnail, picture of Aragorn or something, you might think the game is awesome and looks like this. LMAO.
It's just concept art. I mean, I don't know why you'd think the game would look like the concept art. But...
Speaking of Lord of the Rings, go ahead, Jason.
From Armand Nouri, Lord of the Rings license will be renewed by WB because they are currently making Shadow of Mordor 2 at Monolith, so they would need to renew it for that game to be released.
I don't think that applies. That game is going to be... Isn't that slated for this year or 2017, in which case it will be out under the current license?
Well, it doesn't matter because there's a difference between, you know, a regular like single-player PC
right.
versus an MMO. I mean, there are Star Wars games out there that are not Star Wars: The Old Republic that BioWare doesn't make, so...
Yep, yeah.
A company could give an exclusive to one firm and have them make all their games, but they might not. So.
We saw how well that's worked in the past. Q, go ahead, take the next one.
Card, with regards to Warframe, as someone who has done QA in a non-gaming industry before, the issues you find in report are sometimes ignored for the sake of a deadline. This is because the people in decision-making positions are often associated with accounting, sales, and marketing, more so than with production. A phrase I often heard tossed out is, it's easier to ask forgiveness. I would imagine this is even more so the case with the games industry, where it's even easier, cheaper to fix something later with patches. You remember when that wasn't the case?
Yes.
No. Back before there were DLCs and patches. Back when you had to like buy a cartridge for your Nintendo.
When shit didn't connect to the internet immediately upon turning it on. Yeah, and Soulcard, thank you so much for this type of feedback. I love when viewers chime in with this stuff. I didn't even think about that, really, Jason, and it makes sense, right? That if the bugs that the players were talking about in Warframe's latest update is, oh my god, if you would have played the story mode, some of these things you would have seen right away. There's no way you couldn't see them. Well, maybe those aren't the bugs that the QA team is the most interested in. They're looking for the more complex, more game-breaking ones because these are simpler fixes and we can push it with an update and we have a marketing deadline. I didn't even kind of take that angle on it because you just want to think QA is doing exactly what they need to do. As soon as they come across a bug, it's off to the dev team to fix it. But yeah, with the marketing deadlines, I really didn't even think of adding that extra level of, well, this is an easy one, we'll fix that in a patch on day 2.
I don't know, when it's something that sounds as simple and obvious as what we were talking about, I think that's the sort of thing that even the time crunch dev team, marketing team, whatever, should look at those. Something buried, some edge case that you're not going to get a lot of the time. I can see missing that, but yeah.
Jace says, oh, this is right up Jason's alley.
Oh, yeah, I like this one. Remember, I don't read these beforehand, so...
Jace says, A-bomb to Riders of Icarus for not having invert mouse, missing such a cutting-edge 1980s game feature makes it unplayable for me.
Yeah,
and Jason,
that's not me. Even though it says Jace, that's not me. But I totally agree with him.
Jason said that within minutes of logging into our stream yesterday. Where's inverted mouse? Jason, it doesn't have it. No, you're kidding me. Well, okay, you could look, but I don't think it has it. Oh, I hate this already. Go ahead, Q.
Wilfredo Rivera, the bomb to every single developer that has ever developed anything, whether good, bad, or indifferent. The development process is so taxing, time-consuming, and pressured that I just want to send some good vibes to those that make games we love. Thank you, devs. Oh, that's sweet.
What is this now? Last week, I remember Wilfredo had some really good bomb. He was something that somebody was complaining about that I totally agreed with.
Hey,
now
Wilfredo's
he's being all
just doing the
touchy-feely
right
nice.
thing. He's just,
come on, Wilfredo.
He's
You're
just doing the right thing. He's just putting out
totally failing me here.
He's just putting out the love.
I'll give love to Kroger, but that's it this week.
Oh,
right.
You're so mean. Go ahead, Jason.
Mr. Sanchez 159 says, dude, quit the white shirts in the window.
Yeah, and you know what? Criticism taken. When I watched last week's episode, I was like, I look like I am a spirit with the light just illuminating this white shirt. So today it's blue, and I swear I'm going to put up some shades.
You know, the other thing to avoid, the vertical stripe shirts.
Yeah.
Because they do this.
Yeah. Mr. Sanchez, criticism absolutely accepted. You're exactly right. Question of the week last week. Will Evolve get any of your attention? Why or why not? Vortex says, question of the week. I intend to have fun with the initial hype train, but I'm still cautious about their future payment model and the overall longevity of the game. Perhaps it will have a good future if handled correctly, but based off their past shenanigans, I'm not optimistic. Come on, Turtle. Give me a reason to be optimistic. I think that's a fair assumption.
Yeah.
Past behavior to dictate future behavior.
Which is why we're all still iffy about the Guild Wars 2 update.
Exactly. Go ahead, Jason.
Deathlock says, it's many F's there, it says, fuck Evolve. Release a $60 game and then make you pay for monsters they should have been in the game at launch. That was the reason I didn't play Rainbow Six Siege. It was a cash grab and then it quickly found ways to screw its players, and it will do the same really soon, just you wait. Also, fair assessment.
Not optimistic at all. Not even benefiting of the doubt there.
No, the DLC shitstorm was too much for him.
Go ahead, Q.
Okay, this is the person's name and not me actually saying this, but trying as shit. Evolve not working, black screen and red cursor, broken stage 2 start.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going around. There was definitely a lot of that errors going around. 1,000-Pound Pig says, heard that Evolve is now more action-focused. It's less about trying to find the monster which is hiding, because it's a lot easier now with the planet scanner and everyone being able to use the dome. Think that's a big change compared to what it was around 6 months ago. And we kind of touched on a lot of the different nerfs and changes that they kind of had to put into the game to appeal to a really broad audience very quickly. Finish it up, Jason.
Sky Shadow says, question of the week, no, it's 50 gig and I don't have that much free space. I now have Elder Scrolls Online, Guild Wars 2 already, and I have a bad experience with already, so yeah, I'm just going to skip it. Now, I will say that, yeah, the system requirements on Steam say 50 gig. When I downloaded it, I don't think it was anywhere near that. Like, it was more like around 15 or so, I think. So you might want to just try it out to see how it goes. So
maybe it's a typo. Yeah. Question of the week this week, I know it's not on PC yet. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, come on. What are you going to do? Carry your computer
Carry it around?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know. As soon as I said yet, I was like, that was dumb. I know it isn't on PC, but I want to hear your great Pokemon Go stories so far. I'm seeing some wonderful stuff on the internet, and some not so wonderful, with people luring people into beatings and finding bodies and weird things. But let me know what's going on in your neck of the woods on the Pokemon Go front. Q, until next week, where can everybody find you?
On Twitter at Quinlan, just hanging out.
Jason.
On Twitter at Winter Informal, streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter. Every time I stream The Witcher, there's a bath scene. So just so you know, there's always nudity.
I don't know how to follow that.
Is that supposed to be a negative or a positive? Like, trying to sell this here?
Right.
Or?
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me on Twitter at magicman1, MAGICKMANN1, or come on over to MMOBomb.com. Check out all the videos and giveaways. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.